Hi, my name is Garvin Parsons, and thank you so much for having me for today's lunchtime reading as part of Campus Literature Week 2021. I'll be reading from my short story entitled Peacock, and basically it's about these two high school students who are the different sides of the same coin and the tension that exists between the both of them. I do hope that you enjoy, and yeah, so here we go. The corridor was a sea of navy blue and orange, as students milled around under the corridor's galvanized roof, held up by thick PVC pillars. Clarissa strutted, keychains jangling, while Celine tried to keep up with stiff, regular steps. Students stared and nodded and waved at them as they passed. The younger students giggled to each other while the boys acknowledged Salim the way boys do when they have a nice girl on their arm. The entire school thought that they were together. Neither Salim nor Clarissa sought to correct them. While the reasons were deeper than simply showing off, they reveled in their role play. Clarissa beamed as a pigtail swung behind her, and Salim blushed, enjoying that other students thought he had a girlfriend. You know, Shakwan is so brave. They were somewhere between H block and the changing rooms. Salim tried to pull his arm from Clarissa's, but she held on firmly. He gazed down at her and shook his head. She stuck out her tongue at him and continued. He didn't let Hakeem get away with calling him that word, you know. I like the designs he does on his shirt too. You see the walk? So fabulous. You should be more like that, you know. Did she really just suggest that? He bit the side of his cheek and stared at the flowering poetries in the distance, trying his hardest to block out Clarissa's voice. Salim hated all the things that she enjoyed about Shakwan. He wasn't brave. Rather, he made a spectacle of himself in front of the entire school. No one respected him. The attention he drew to himself was unnecessary and did more harm than good. Whatever his agenda, it was not working. Hakeem still bullied him. The students still laughed at him more times than they did with him. And for every Clarissa that supported Shakwan, thinking he was brave, there were 9 Clarissas that didn't. Uncle Roll always wrinkled his nose when he saw Shakwan, or referred to him as a little man from Overso before spitting on the ground. He also made it a point to threaten to kill Salim if he dared to embarrass him by behaving like that in public. Clarissa untwined her arms from his and pushed open the heavy wooden door of the choir room. A squeak of rusty hinges, then a rush of sound. The room was already bustling with choir members. Some were seated alone, others were chatting in groups or finishing their box lunch. Salim followed Clarissa over the threshold and across the room, past the grand piano, the cabinet that stored the guitars, melodicas, and tambourines, and the director's desk, to the cupboard spaces against the wall where members left their bags. Salim had only just taken his bag off his back when he heard a cackle. To the left, he glimpsed a congregation of members, and at the center was none other than Shakwan. He sat with his back straight, his bottom touching the back of the chair. His shoes were off as he had tucked his left foot behind his right knee. He held an orchard juice box in his hand, while the other swung violently as he gabbled about the cafeteria incident. Shakwan clearly thought himself queen of the choir room, holding court with his sycophants, who leaned in encouraging him. Before Salim could whisper his thoughts on the madness he was witnessing to Clarissa, she brushed past him and called out to Shakwan, who paused and appraised her from head to toe before nodding his approval. Clarissa literally skipped across the room to stand in the queen's inner circle. Then, from over her shoulder, she signaled to Salim to come on over. Shakwan swiveled ever so slightly in his seat and gave Salim the once-over. His eyes opened widely as he held Salim in his gaze. His lips were parted and the usual sharpness to his face seemed to soften. Salim did not know what Shakwan's expression meant exactly, but he suddenly felt exposed and wanted to move as far away as possible. With his transport jammed into his cupboard space, Salim marched all the way to the corner of the room. He didn't understand Clarissa. Yeah, he allowed her to gush about Shakwan when they were alone together, but she knew how he felt about him. Yet, she had still called Shakim over. To do what? Laugh at Shakwan and his stupid story? Salim dropped on the metal chair in the corner and crossed his arms. He refused to even look in her direction. No doubt she was twirling the end of her ponytail, hanging on Shakwan's every word. Instead, he focused on the blackboard behind the director's desk, with his music notes, song lyrics, and weekly motivational quote in the top left-hand corner. He could still hear them, their exaggerated exclamation and gasps of delight, his embellishments, their praise and adoration, his cackles and attempt at modesty. Music is the great unifier, an incredible force, something that people who differ on everything and anything else can have in common. Salim scoffed. Even the court was mocking him. He gripped the back of his pants and closed his eyes as he began to hum the chorus of the song that they had been rehearsing for the religious portion of the school's annual music festival. The song reverberated in his chest as his breathing slowed and his shoulders relaxed. Yet his concerns went further away the more he hummed. Don't do me that! A voice yelled in the room in response to Shaquan's story. Salim slammed his fist into his thighs as his eyes flew open. He glared at Shaquan's adoring circle. Everyone was casually looking everywhere else but at Salim, seemingly oblivious to their being disruptive. Salim searched for Clarissa and found her, with her hands over her mouth. His eyes narrowed, questioning her without words. Sorry, she mouted, slowly lowering her hands, the sides of her mouth twitching. Ollie, relax now, we being real loud, Shaquan said. We bothering Salim, and he trying to concentrate. Salim's eyes moved from Clarissa to Shaquan, who did not avert his gaze. He shook his juice box, then put the straw up to his lips and slurped the remainder. The focus was no longer on the ceiling, for everyone was now interested in the silent confrontation between Salim from the proper side of the old train line and Shaquan from the other side. Shaquan finished his drink, smirking. Salim, shoulders tense, latched onto the fabric of his pants and balled his hands into fists. Uncle Roy would expect him to say something. Here he was, being provoked among his peers for the second time in under 30 minutes by a boy who swung his hips like a girl, sang like a girl, talked like a girl, and acted like a girl. And his best friend Clarissa stood at his side as though they were friends. He felt the tears forming, but he blinked them away. He would not cry. Not here, not now. Come on, Salim. Tell Shaquan what you think. Rattle his defenses. Show him who is better. He opened his mouth, and nothing. He was a fish on dry land, gasping for air, losing the battle, failing his Uncle Roll. Oh gosh, he cute, eh? Shaquan snorted. Salim flushed. He broke eye contact, then with shoulders slumped, retreated inward. Shaquan's description was like a pin that had burst whatever slight advantage he had had. Cute? Hello, hello, Nikita called as she entered, pushing the door closed behind her, before coming to a stop by the grand piano. The members quickly assembled according to their voice and section. Salim tried to put all the thoughts of Clarissa and Shaquan and his posse out of his mind as he took his usual seat with the tenors. Clarissa and the other sopranos were to the right, while the altos sat to the left. Shaquan, who was also a tenor and barely a gentleman, sat 2 rows in front of Salim. From his seat in the fourth and last row, Salim could make out the stupid diamond that Shaquan had ironed into his shirt with the help of spray starch and patience. Nikita thanked them for settling down so quickly and explained that she was leading practice today as the director had had a family emergency. There was some cheering. She did a little curtsy before continuing. Salim found it difficult to pay attention. Nikita's curtsy had reminded him of Shaquan calling him cute in front of everyone. The room got smaller and smaller. Cute? He whispered to himself. The word sounded foreign. Did Shaquan actually think Salim was cute? No, definitely not. Cute was a small word. It's what you would use to describe Clarissa and her stupid ribbons, or a 9-year-old girl sitting on a pony eating an ice cream. Salim was an almost 18-year-old man with a deep voice, bulging Adam's apple, big hands, and size 13 feet, the furthest thing from cute. Shaquan knew that. He had implied that Salim was small, insignificant, lacking. He had wanted to humiliate him, to shut him up, and it worked. Salim had walked straight into his dainty hands, had allowed a high-pitched voice to taunt him, and had said nothing to defend himself. Salim rubbed his knees. He dared not look around the room. He should just leave practice for the day and come back fresh tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye.